Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to share this moment with you. And listening to Martin Scully, an agricultural engineer and manager of innovation at Yara. And I will put myself in my farmer's shoes. They ask us to meet so many things. We have so many demands. We do so many things, and we've been doing so many things. We're in a continuous improvement, but we always have this uncertainty and the challenge whether we can keep meeting the requirements of the low environmental footprints. And why not improve our profitability? So, Martin, we are all ears to hear your proposal. I'm going to stand. I don't like to speak from here, so it was a pleasure for me to have been invited to this space. And the first person I thought for sharing this space was Pilu, because we've had this conversation for a long time. And I wanted to tell you what we are working on and then talk to her to share her vision of her role at INTA and also as a farmer. I wanted to start with this, that is our ambition as a company at Yara. Our ambition is to build a positive food future for nature. It sounds like a wide message, but I think it's very powerful. This speaks of building, and building for us is a collaborative process. That's why we are at Aapresid today. It has to do with working together towards something better, a food future. We've had many talks in this Congress. As farmers, we not only produce food, but also fibers, essences, fuels, raw materials for many industries. However, for us, our priority is the food future of the planet, and that it should be positive for nature, because we understand that it's not enough with just reducing the footprint. We also have to leave more than what we take. So from that position at Yara, for a couple of years now, we've been developing a whole strategy around the regenerative agriculture. We've heard a lot about it. We see regenerative agriculture as a set of practices or a systematic approach based on knowledge in order to adopt the best practices and the best technologies so that they have a positive impact on nature and climate. So from there, we focus on 5 axes to work on. The first is climate, thinking of reducing the emissions from our production systems and improving the resilience of crops against stress conditions. In a couple of slides, I'm going to tell you about what we are presenting in this Congress related to that. Then soil health. We understand that we not only have to provide what the crop needs, but also make sure that we maintain the structure of the soils. That's why we are in the Aapresid Congress. And not only promoting, but also maintaining the biodiversity of our soils. Use of resources. A lot has been said about producing more with less. We are convinced that we have to maximize production, but always making an efficient use of resources. Biodiversity, limiting the pressure on the soil and promoting the preservation of natural habitats. The biodiversity of the soil is very relevant for us. And finally, and very important for me, and the focus of this talk is prosperity. It has to do with improving the quality of life of farmers, and of course, that has to do with improving the profitability of their crops and make it possible for each farmer to use solutions. Even if they have a contact with all of these axes, they should eventually have an impact on the economic aspect of the cycle of the crop. This is based on the over 100 years of Yara. We are a Norwegian nutrition company that has 105 years, and with a very clear approach to innovation and development of new solutions for agriculture. From there, what I'm going to present today is supported on the economic knowledge that has more than 100 years. today at the Congress, we are launching this new product line, Yara Amplex, our new line of biologicals that somehow comes to go further into what we are doing in crop nutrition. I just wanted to invite you to visit our booth to see all the solution we are presenting, because we mainly focus on three axes from the point of view of our biologicals portfolio. On the one hand, prepare the crops to tolerate abiotic stress, mainly focused on water stress, stress to high temperatures, also salinity, chemical stress. We all experienced the past season how complex it was in terms of pyroplasm and the presence of the chicharrita, the leaf hopper. But in many areas, the thermal stress, particularly for corn, was terrible. The quality of the soybean in the northeast is also bad because of the stress. So we have many tools to prepare a crop for those situations. We also understand that our biologicals portfolio can also support making a more efficient use of resources, promoting the fixation of nitrogen as one of the products we have displayed at the booth, but also making other macronutrients available. And finally, improve the quality of the crop, the soil health, the health of the plant, the quality of the fruits, and developing the roots. So again, going back to the challenge of the past season, we understand that a better nurtured crop prepared for the stress is better positioned against factors that can have an impact on production, as in last year, again, the leaf hopper, but we don't know what comes, and we have a great option to give resilience to our systems. Beyond this, again, I would like to invite you to visit the booth, but I'd like to tell you about our sustainability programs and, as Pilu was saying, how can we reduce the impact and at the same time improve the profitability of our systems. These two programs on the screen, Together for a Plus and Together for More, are our programs for wheat, barley, and corn. And basically, with this, we help farmers adopt technology and decarbonize their production, also improving their profitability. How do these programs work? Basically, the essence of the project is to support the farmer throughout the crop cycle. There are no precise nutritional recommendations without accurate diagnosis, so we start from there. Then we accompany the farmer at each stage, at each application of the crop, the starters, then the correction with nitrogen. We use our digital portfolio for making dynamic recommendations of nitrogen, the application of micronutrients, and monitoring of the field based on satellite images. At the end of the season, what we do is to sit with the farmer and evaluate the results. From where? Well, we evaluate the yield, the profitability of the practices, efficiency in the use of nitrogen, and mainly we evaluate the carbon footprint that was generated. We rely so much on this model that we share the risk with the farmer. Today we're working on the solutions with 3 different commercial schemes, but the first one I'm going to focus on here is a scheme that includes a competitive in the field. It works like this. We generate an algorithm to split a lot of land in 2 because we want to have similar environments. It doesn't mean that we just cut it in half. We look for a division that allows us to make a valid comparison. We implement a risk model and shared value. It works. I mean, in a portion of the lot, the farmer keeps doing exactly what they were doing before, using the fertilizer portfolio they were using. And in the other part, with the support I mentioned, the farmer uses 100% Yara's recommendations. If the result of the Yara lot is negative, Yara reimburses the product for any additional investment they've done. But if the result is positive, the farmer assumes a commitment to share with us 30% of the additional benefit generated in that lot. 30% is a lot, and many of you must be thinking, who will accept this? Well, many farmers are doing it, and let me tell you why, and this is why. These are the results of 3 seasons in the lots of land that joined this program for wheat and barley. We not only managed to increase the yield by more than 200 kilograms per hectare, but the economic net average result for the Yara lots versus the other lots was almost $25 per hectare above what they would earn. We also reduced the applied nitrogen by 30%, and we increase the efficiency of the use of nitrogen by 45%. Going back to the slide with the 5 pillars, this is use of the resources and optimizing the inputs in the field. But more relevant, we managed to reduce the carbon footprint by nutrition by almost 35%. We have a metric for this program. We call it win rate. That is, in what percentage of the lots we're winning. In the carbon footprint, our win rate is 100%. The footprint reduction range in all the lots that are part of this analysis was between 15 and in some cases almost 60%. If we look at corn, very similar. An economic result that net even higher, almost $40 per hectare. Even if we look at the last 3 seasons, quite complex from the climate point of view. We also managed to reduce the amount of nitrogen applied, and again, we increased the efficiency in the use of nitrogen and reduced the footprint by almost 35%. Today, I was listening to Sebastián Albucera speaking about the fertilizers and the general footprint. It's very important to achieve this if we want to decarbonize our production.
How did we manage this, and how or why? There are 3 main reasons that help us achieve this level of reduction. The first is lower emissions at the premises. We included a catalyzing technology that reduces the impact of nitrous oxide. It separates the molecule into 2 to reduce the environmental impact, largely reducing emissions, greater efficiency of use of applied nitrogen. This means better advantage given by the crop. This is based on ammonium nitrate formulation. And finally, fewer field emissions. Ammonium nitrate is a source of nitrogen that does not volatilize. Losses of nitrogen are limited to the maximum, and the crop can be very efficiently used. Additionally to this, we believe that decarbonization should be a collaborative process. We know we cannot ask everything from farmers. For that reason, the risk model is shared, and this is why I wanted to talk about a clear incentive process that we managed in the food chain. We are working with Bormalt, one of the biggest malt brewing companies in Latin America. Bormalt, after seeing all these results, they were persuaded that the fact that getting farmers to use Yara fertilizers was a very good way to reduce the footprint, to ensure the quality of the product, and to increase the profitability and the yield of farmers. This is a very simple program. The farmer keeps operating with the local distributor, purchasing fertilizers. They have a contract with Bormalt on an amount identical with that of the fertilizer, and they receive an incentive, a direct one, in the price of barley. I want to show that when working together, we get results that farmers validate on the field. They can show that they improve profitability, they don't complicate the production of crops, and they reduce the footprint in a significant manner. Incentives will come, and they are on the table now. In summarizing and in talking about with Pilu, what are we achieving with all this? To reduce the environmental impact of what we do in the field, reduce emissions, We improve productivity of our crops, maximizing the return, which, as I said, is a fundamental focus for our strategy of regenerative agriculture, generate a more efficient resource, decarbonize production, and accompany farmers in adopting technologies. It is important to be next to them when they make decisions and to accompany them with our knowledge. This was all I wanted to talk about today. The purpose of having Pilu here with us is for her to talk her mind. She plays a role in INTA, and we discussed a little bit about this. I've shown you so far everything in connection to Yara, but what about your role? How do you see decarbonization in the field? I was to moderate, but now he's asking me to participate. But this is how he is. We all know him. In my commitment as a moderator, I wanted to find out how this collaborative model is built. It's quite calling. There is a company that provides fertilizers, and we could think the other way around. It's one of the most pointed at. So how do you work reactively? And what we hear from your presentation, Martin, is this proactive approach, providing solutions. You as providers, where you continue to provide fertilizers beyond the fact that you may increase the portfolio where products, the portfolio for product offering. I would like to get to know how this model is built, because it is in the place where I feel that we, as INTA, or as an agricultural technology institute, we have a lot to offer in this proposal. To build together, based on what we've been working for so many years, agriculture with a low environmental footprint, but with indicators, with the possibility to show them and to have them available for different productions, for different integrations, and for different technology tools in order to have a number of different alternatives. If we go back to the impact fertilizers have in the total wheat footprint, if you analyze wheat, corn, there's 60% associated to production and the use of fertilizers. We could hide on the corner and look from there, but that is opposite to what we aim at doing. We believe we have a lot to contribute to that discussion in order to reduce the footprint to the maximum. We cannot do it on our own. We are the supplier and we generate knowledge. We do not produce food. On the one hand, we need the producer. That is without a doubt. We also need institutions to validate our knowledge. We believe that knowledge is generated quicker and more powerful when shared. And the role of institutions such as INTA is fundamental, and it should be scaled up. We also believe we have to connect with the rest of the privates. The chain is atomized, but in the end, we are a lot of players in the chain. If there is no true interest from all parties, hardly will we achieve relevant impacts. For this reason, I included a format in my presentation, but we could include very many in the sector of in the food sector. But we need to join up our efforts to achieve this level and this effect at a scale. Up until not that long ago, those who had an idea, an invention, or a product, they would keep it under 5 locks. That was even the case in research or in the scientific field. But if you keep it to yourself, you lose now. If you share it and you scale it up, you get unlimited results. How should we then work on those scenarios that, far from being a competition among players, because you talked about Wormalt, we saw the Puma platform or Artec, and I am sure that this proposal can meet a number of different markets in a very, very short term. What needs are out there for that development? Today we understand there is a need to decarbonize. It is not clear how to run it or how to incentivize it, not in all markets. That's the reality. But there's an immediate need to decarbonize and reduce impact. From that place as a company, we work in corn, barley, and wheat. We also work in sugar canes, in citrus, in potato. We have one of the most important projects in the country. Collaborating among all of us, we can understand needs. Then there are specificities to each one of them. Biofuels. Well, those that are exported to the European Union receive a price incentive according to the footprint. There are programs in Argentina that are encouraging measurement, and we need consumers who are willing to pay. It does not exist in all markets. It does not exist in all products. But there is this conscience or this awareness where companies are trying to reduce their footprint without focusing on or without going against productivity of farmers. I don't see Bormat or any other food company going against production, because in the end, that's their business. But in the meantime, they do need to show impact. Corporate commitments of all food companies are, well, 2025, 2030. It's 5 seasons. It's not that much. It's nothing, we should say. And all of you can ask questions with the QR code, so I pay attention to see whether you have them. But in the meantime, I take advantage of Martin because you talked about a number of different things. I loved that. One of the big advantages INTA has is the big territoriality, the possibility of being in different productive areas with different conditions. And what about the scheme? You clearly show it for special products. But what is your regard, taking it to more productions, to more activities? Because a great deal of what you are sharing now has to do with how to produce without jeopardizing large-scale production, but also quality and environmental care. From that perspective, it all begins with the first slide that has to do with years of knowledge. We work a lot in understanding what the best way is to diagnose for each crop and to recommend, so that we won't go against the production and profitability of producers, and to see how we reduce the footprint of systems. Each system is quite particular because they are quite particular in the use of fertilizers. But just so we can give you an example, we've been working in the industry of potatoes for a long time, and in this crop, we achieved very good results, reducing the footprint up to 45%. We have in Otamendi, the potato park, they undertook a commitment with us to produce our line of products with a reduced carbon footprint. One fertilizer produced with green technology. It's the first agreement with a global reach. It's an Argentinian potato producer that will start their campaign this week with a carbon footprint that is smaller than that of any other in Argentina and in the region. This has to do with the initiative of their producers. We have to be ready to respond to this need in an innovative and collaborative manner. We cannot hide anything, not with him, with INTA, or anyone. Let me ask a question from the audience. Is there any minimum extension of lots to participate in the program? No, not at all. Both programs are active in the country. You can participate with a lot down to multiple lots. We have it a harder time with lots that have less than 25 hectares, but there is no single requirement. You're all invited to join. And in connection to green fertilizers, are there growth expectations, market growth expectations for big scale growth? And let us go deeper into the following. In a way, you, as Yara and as chemical synthesized fertilizers, starting to offer biologically synthesized fertilizers, it's a matter of showing that it's not either or. It's a combination of tools that we can start to use according to need, and that we will have a number of different results, but there is no one single recipe. So it's two questions in one. We absolutely believe that biologics and minerals have to exist together. We need to prepare the crop in order for it to yield to the maximum potential and to also be well positioned in the event of a stressful situation. If you go by our booth, you will see the range of solutions that we are presenting. They aim at this, giving the crop resilience and reducing stress. We know that in our agriculture, the droughts are quite frequent. Green fertilizers, they have to do with the potato project. For a couple of years, we embarked on this, producing fertilizers with a smaller carbon footprint. This is associated to the use of energy that is used for production. And over a month, now, the opening of a new plant was communicated in order for this to be possible. But most importantly, an agreement was signed with an UK company in Paraguay, Atome, to provide ultra-low footprint fertilizers in the region. So being a country like Argentina, we are very well positioned because it will be right there at the corner, right at the corner for us. So we hope we have it in the next few years. Another question relates to this, whether all fertilizers have a low footprint, and what are the implications of the agreement you've just described. It's a provisioning agreement. So we will go deeper into this as it gets developed. It's a plant that has to be started from zero, so it will take a few years. But in connection to the existing portfolio, Yara has certification for all its products. This is a differentiating factor for us in the commodities market. If you see sources in general, and I would dare say that all have less footprint than commodities alternatives, in mainly associated to the fact that ammonium nitrate is very efficient, and it helps me reduce the footprint to a great extent. We keep receiving questions, and that's really good, but I will stay on with one, because I then would like to comment about INTA. The question is whether you have standardized the way to measure the footprint. We, being INTA, are undertaking this role of being the guardians of science, the possibility from science to carry forward the way to measure essential indicators, to be able to put together a number of different indicators according to regions and according to activities. That is to make progress and to open up the umbrella of positions. From science, to be able to provide this service, being certain that we are working in universal standards with universal validation standards so that each one of the parties will facilitate their business. So I definitely would say that we are committed. And as the INTAs in the region, the National Agricultural Investigation Institutes in the countries, we are working in a joint manner so that this does not affect each country in particular, but so that this strengthens the South American region with this positioning. But we go back with the standard of the footprint. We do not measure the footprint with our own methods. Yara, for a couple of years, is a member, and it is part of the Good Farm Alliance. It's a Good Farm tool. It's a tool to calculate the footprint. We work at a local level with a number of experts that help us adjust very accurately with local indicators. We are members of the Argentinian program of carbon neutrality. We are members of Aapresid. We are fully committed to validating and verifying these practices. And we believe we cannot do it on our own. Well, this is very much encouraging. It invites you into participating because each one of us has predefined roles. And these are the situations where everybody wins. There's this very big possibility that is brought about by this type of measurements, by accessing these markets, including this view, in order to improve our productive systems. This is where everybody wins, and this is not something negligible, not at all. I'm sure that we will have to take out our calculators and start measuring in exact terms. But before we do that, I should ask how people can join your sustainability program. On your way out of the room, part of the team will have envelopes to share containing the information of the program and how you can join. Otherwise, you can go by our booth. It's on the right. It contains all information, but it's generally very simple through the distribution chain or in our team directly. We are open to those that want to join, both for what remains for wheat or for the corn campaign. And this is a very specific question, thinking about the amount of nitrogen that Yara has in its products, nitro doble and not. Even though we know that they are highly available, how should we compare it against a ureic nitrogen to calculate the replenishment?
This is not the first time I'm asked this question. My colleagues at Yara will laugh about this. But our nitrogenated portfolio has two products. When we compare them, sulfan as well. Yeah, they're asking about it as well. Yarabela Nitrodoble has 27% nitrogen. Yarabela Sulfan has 24. In the slides I showed you the efficiency of the use of nitrogen. As usual, the efficiency in the use depends on the application mode, the condition, the type of lot, etc. Today, what we have surveyed in many trials, and this is also in some interactive screens in the booth, even if we compare kilo by kilo in terms of doses, not in terms of nutrients, but in terms of product, we achieve better results. So we feel very comfortable there. Anyway, we never recommend it like that. We always do a diagnosis from the analysis of the soil. So I invite you, if you want to use the sulfan, well, come visit us. You have my contact information there. And we have a whole system of recommendations to achieve the yield goal of the farmer in the most efficient manner. This reminded me that last year I attended an event in another country with people from Yara, and they were planning to travel to Argentina. And they said, I don't know how you do it in Argentina. You have this concept of sustainability so rooted there and the commitment of working together. So you reminded me of that. Obviously, the potato project, as you mentioned, was very interesting for them as to how to achieve this. And I remember this because this type of questions that we are so used to having here, they are immediately calculating as soon as they hear the proposal, and they're thinking of how to leverage this situation. You spoke about the soil analysis. When you see all the demands we have, how they indicate the deficits we have, of course, everything we do well, but you have some pending things there. And the tool for soil analysis is vital, but we are still having difficulty escalating it. It's amazing because we are speaking of an input that has a huge impact in economic terms, in terms of investment. However, it's still something that is outstanding spending. And it's also, we can also say that about the correct use of the strategic fertilizers, not just in terms of quantity, but speaking of fertilization strategy. What can you tell us about it? We love to talk about this concept of the 4 Rs in nutrition. There are moment, dose, time and place. We cannot achieve that without a correct diagnosis. If you look at the figures, some are from the cereal stock through Reta about the soil analysis. It says that for corn, around 30% of the farmers make an analysis. So there is a debt there. We have to be more accurate in the diagnosis. Even more when we look at the maps as the ones that have been just published by Fertilizar and INTA, and see how we are exhausting the soil in terms of nutrients. It's also clear that the response of the farmer to that problem has an economic component that is very important, and it's okay. Anyway, if there's no diagnosis, it's impossible to make the correct decision. Whenever you talk to an agricultural engineer at Yara, they will ask for the soil analysis. That's because we are convinced that that's the way of doing it correctly, and we have to promote it. Absolutely. You were speaking about that diagnosis and the soil maps and the percentages of the analysis of the soil and the fertilization. And I also think that the monitoring. I love that we share this from the perspective of having information for decision making and not just being apocalyptic about the situation. On the contrary, knowing all that information, we can make the necessary changes, and we can use tools like the ones that you are sharing today. What's the trend of the adoption of these tools by farmers? Well, the adoption of tools for diagnosis and recommendation has been growing. I think that we are fortunate because we have highly resilient soils. So we are on time, far from being apocalyptic. I think we are in time. We have time, and we have a great opportunity to start looking down and not so much up, and making accurate recommendations again, thinking of more than just nitrogen and phosphorus when we recommend, and not just for corn and wheat, but also thinking of a complete scheme, thinking of soybean, of replenishing phosphorus in some key moments. There are more options. Probably it should grow more quickly, but I think that farmers in the past seasons that were terrible are helpful. They increasingly understand that a crop that is well nurtured is better prepared to face a situation of stress. Today we were discussing about the leaf hopper, and we said we do not have the exact information of the impact, but no doubt that if it's well fertilized, it could support it better. So that's increasingly relevant. Absolutely. And thinking of chicharrita, the leaf hopper, there's a lot of evidence there. And also the impact of the climate stress as well. So no doubt that there we also have a lot to work on. And I'm thinking of a multinational company like Yara and a research institute like INTA that is official in a country where technical knowledge is overwhelming. I mean, we always share studies that compare farmers from Argentina and farmers from the US, and depending on the years of the survey with other countries. And Argentina is always at the top of the ranking in terms of knowledge, involvement, level of innovation, and the age average that is the lowest. Absolutely. So if you just need to come to this Congress and you can evidence that. So what's the role of INTA in that ecosystem? What can we contribute? I think that INTA contributes territory on the one hand, because they're present in every corner of the country, and we can attest to that. It contributes experience in a young agricultural sector. Of course, we need the most senior to tell us what direction we should follow. It also contributes method, which is essential. There's no research without scientific method, and INTA is the best in that. And it also contributes the international connections. You mentioned the different regional offices of INTA in the region. I think that INTA plays and should play an essential role there, connecting what we find here with what others find, tell us what is right. You are doing it with chicharrita and Brazil. But for me, that's the role of INTA, to accompany, to be close to the farmer, to the company, to all the chain. That's the method, and contributing experience and territory. Great. Here, there's a question about how they can obtain the video, the recording of this talk. Well, a few days after this Congress, all the talks and presentations will be available. You just have to bear with us for a few days. We have to be patient. Well, it's great that they want to listen to us again. This is very successful. Let's continue for a little longer, and let's go even further, because it was great what you said, that we can keep these indicators and this environmental protection, but we can also be profitable. Can we improve that profitability? When we think of improving that profitability, what are the aspects we are considering? Well, absolutely. This program I shared with you, we always work with the farmers' yield expectation, which is not the ceiling. A lot has been said here about the potential yield gaps. There's a lot to explore when you start looking not only at nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, but also zinc, calcium, magnesium. I mean, there's a lot to consider from the perspective of nutritional management. So going back to the basis of the physiology of the crop to evaluate the yield ceilings, a lot can be improved. And if we look at the chart of those lots where we managed to achieve a maximum profitability, it's 3 or 4 times that, or 5 times that number. Yes, the truth is that the perspective of work and of possibilities is unlimited. And I was also thinking of these possibilities of the different productions. But we can also think of capitalizing on the integration of those productions. In your presentation, you mentioned a mid to long-term approach, not just an immediate approach. Yes, we imagine the future of this product as a program for rotation per cycles, and we understand that probably that will be the next step, incorporating soil health indicators and start to see how do I complete this program in 5 years with the crop cycles. We need more collaboration, more actors, but we are convinced that it is possible. That's a good challenge because going back to the role of INTA as part of its purposes as an institution, promoting public policies is a key role. So all this work is ideal for that because that argument we have to present has to be done jointly with all the actors involved. Perhaps we can contribute from science, but we have to work with production, with the suppliers of the inputs and tools. So we keep increasing those collaborative networks of work. So from Yara, I mentioned before an experience. I mentioned before that somebody from the company made this comment about the country. Are you promoting that from Argentina? I'm a fan. For me, it's an export model from Argentina, these collaborative networks, but I'd like to hear it from you. I think it's part of the culture of the company. Actually, one of our values as a company is collaboration. We have 4, which are curiosity, ambition, responsibility, and collaboration. That's interesting. Can you repeat them? Ambition, looking at it as a healthy ambition, right? Always targeting more. Curiosity, always thinking out of the box. And that's our nature. Responsibility, as a Norwegian company, we have a very high standard in the way we do business. And finally, collaboration. Great. Well, definitely, it's a wonderful challenge, Martin. And I would like to insist on this, that thinking of this challenge and these possibilities and these tools from a company that is a supplier of fertilizers, that we could be regretting about our future role in this agriculture and this huge demand of global agriculture. But on the contrary, you are moving forward. You're giving us tools to keep improving. And I think that definitely the final question and also the final uncertainty is how to capitalize economically. I mean, from the point of view of farmers, beyond your proposal as a company. How can they achieve that capitalization as a business? We've been hearing different proposals for incentives or specific businesses. Dr. Ratamlal that says that the farmer that harvests carbon has to harvest $13 per hectare. What's your vision? I think we have to build it together, and the best way is to start in the farming sector, provided the farmer can capture more profitability. I think we have a very powerful tool to sit with other actors in the chain. So my final word is to invite you all to join us in the process. If there's something we do not work out with these specific programs, perhaps we can think of other things. As one of our values is curiosity, so we're always willing to think of new things. So you're all invited. You know where to find us. You can find us with your distributor, or let us think about it together. I loved it. So this is a proposal for producing more and better. A proposal also to see how we can capitalize on all this technological move, and a proposal to keep strengthening and to work together. Of course, everybody is going to join, I'm sure, and I cannot be outside this invitation. And as INTA will be, of course, available to strengthen this proposal. Thank you.